Hello and welcome to another video. Today I wanted to try something out. I'm gonna try and do a mid-monthly wrap-up in between because it's just generally easier for me to remember what I was reading if I'm not waiting for too long to wrap things up. And also, what else? Yeah, it's easier editing. And since I am currently in studying season, I will not stop mentioning it until it's over. I need a video that is low maintenance. Let's just start, right? Okay, so overall I have read 5 books up until now, which 2 of them were audiobooks and 3 were physical copies, which I've got right here. And I'm going to start with the first one that I've read this month, or at least that I finished this month, because I started it in the end of May, and that is Six of Crows. So I've been saying that I wanted to read this for a while now because I wanted to know what the hype was all about, and I finally did it. So Six of Crows, for those of you who don't know, is a story about a group of 6 people, all of them underaged, and they all have their special abilities and personalities. They're all very distinct from each other, while together making up a perfect criminal group. It is sort of Ocean's 11 meeting magical world building.
What I'm about to propose to you is both highly lucrative and highly dangerous.
And that concept is just really cool. That's as far as the plot goes, though it's a very vague description. I realized that. I enjoyed the book very much. I just wish that it would have been just a tiny bit older so that everything would have seemed just a bit more realistical. On the other hand, it's a work of fiction, so how realistic do we have to be? I don't know, that's probably nitpicking. Also, the plot wasn't particularly doing it for me. It was rather the world building and the characters themselves that kind of kept your attention. At least it was like that for me. I have to admit that 3 out of the 6 characters I was really into. I was just not really interested in Nina's and Matthias' story because I am generally not really into love stories. I was just way more into the heist and the criminal undergrounds. But if you are a person that says that in a good young adult fantasy novel there can't be missing a good romance plot, then maybe this is also for you. It has plenty of romance in there. Ultimately, I just want to repeat that I really enjoyed it, and therefore I gave it a 3-star. The reason that it's not a 4-star or a 5-star is just because whenever I left the story, it didn't come with me to influence my personal life. It just stayed a story, although it is unique in many ways. Then I read a book that I put on my monthly TBR, and that was The Package by Sebastian Fitzek. I checked and it actually is translated. So if you want to read it, it's not only available in German, but I read it in German. I have rated it 3 stars, and I feel like if it was any other month than this month, in which I am very much busy with studying and having my brain being occupied in a lot of ways, I would have rated it a bit lower, I guess. All I wanted from this book was to thrill me. And it did! I haven't told you about the plot yet, right? In my TBR I have basically said what was written on the back, and I think I would like to try again because to me the title of the whole book just seems like a sort of clickbait. The title makes it seem like the main plot is the package that gets delivered to someone's house, and they don't really know what's inside of that package, nor do they know the person that this package is addressed to. And the back makes it sound as if it was all about figuring out what was in this package or the influence that the package would have on the owner's life. And it's not. It's about a woman named Emma that is a psychiatrist, and she has a really awful experience at a congress in a hotel, which after that no one believes her that she had that experience. And then fast forwarded to a point in her life 6 months after this tragic event in which she receives a package, and things go down from that point on. But it's not necessarily the package that makes these things happen? Well, I'm usually a bit skeptical when it comes to thrillers that involve any form of psychotherapist, psychologist, or a psychiatrist, just because of my own background. I usually find that they are often portrayed in a way in which they abuse their power, or the writers just giving them this mysterious kind of ability to just influence their target or client with the snap of a finger, or like, I don't know, the wink of an eye, you know. I mean, I'm not an expert on that topic, but that doesn't really work that way. Anyway, it doesn't really have anything to do with the abuse of power, so that was personally very important to me, and since that was out of the way, although it has some logical flaws, I would claim it was entertaining. The ending, though, was frustrating and some Hollywood-esque bullshit, which, you know, could have thrown me off very much if I just wasn't in the fuck it, I'm gonna believe everything you say mood. I didn't care for the conclusion, I didn't care for the reasonings, I didn't care for the reveal, I just cared for the thrill moments. And that's what I got, so that's how the 3 stars came together. So let's move on. We're already at the 3rd book and it only took me like 3/4 of an hour. Next, I listened rather to an audiobook, which there is no English translation of, and I'm going to translate it freely again. It is called On This Side of the Van-Allen Belt. Well, this book was written by Wolfgang Herrndorf. He is a German author. He also narrated the audiobook, which I have to admit I wasn't that great of a fan of his narration. It was very monotone, but I think that was also the point. He passed away due to a brain tumor or / suicide, but the books that he left behind are phenomenal, and with this one I just wanted to pick up another book by him so that I could get closer to my goal of having read every book of his. So let's talk about the plot. There is no real plot. You have, I think, 6 independent stories, and that the main character stays the same, but they're not connected in any way. As I mentioned, Wolfgang Herrndorf presents this book in a very monotone way. So his voice isn't at all suggesting that what he's writing is actually funny and cynical in a way, but what is written, if you're really listening to it, just has this subtle way of absurdity to it that you just know it's not meant seriously. This is not the type of humor for everyone. And it reminded me, although I have to say I've never seen any episodes, I've just seen like brackets and like scenes of it, but it reminded me of how people are describing The Office. Maybe that is not the perfect analogy, but I thought I'd mention it because to me it fit. Maybe I'm way off though. Oh yeah, in the rating, I just forgot to mention it. I gave this book 4 stars. Good. So let's move on. One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus. This one is a YA mystery, and it's about 5 students who are having a detention class together, of which one of them dies during that class. So a very simple but intriguing plot, and I really liked it. I gave it like 4 stars, which I didn't expect. Well, the book starts out with very stereotypical descriptions of 4 students. So you have like the smart brown-haired girl with glasses, you have the athlete that is waiting on a sports stipendium that is very popular with the girls, we have the beautiful popular blonde girl that has no personality besides being somebody's girlfriend, and then we have the bad boy with family issues who kind of deals with drugs kind of way. Well, it starts out like this, but it doesn't stay like it. There are on average 2 point of views in each chapter, and with each chapter you just get another layer deep into the personality of the person of which point of view you're reading from, and that is fantastically made. This book is playing with stereotypes and uses them to mislead you. Don't think just because this book is directed at a younger audience that you can outsmart it. It is very much enjoyable as well for an older audience, at least like the mystery plot is. At the ending it gets a bit more focused on the personal relationships of the characters, which I, being a few years past my prime time as teenager, didn't really care for that much, but it was still very well done. Also, the concept is pretty cool. You have the premise that one of these 4 people that were in the same room with the person that died could be the murderer, and therefore having these 4 different POVs with one of them being a possible murder is just a really interesting addition. And it reminded me, by the way, if you were in any way familiar with that game, it reminded me of Heavy Rain, which was a console game for the PS3, and it had exactly this concept. There was a guy called the Origami Murderer, and you were playing from the point of view of 3 different people who were all trying to solve the case in a way, and that was such an amazing game. And one of the reasons was this switch in perspective every time you change the character. And although Heavy Rain is much more brutal and is also different story-wise than One of Us is Lying, I just couldn't help but feel a bit of sweet nostalgia for the story. I loved it. And then finally, my last book, which I just finished today, it is called Utopia for Realists by Rutger Bregman, and this is a non-fiction piece of writing, and I have struggled explaining what it's about. So I'm gonna put in a clip of Trevor Noah summing up the plot and Rutger Bregman talking about it a bit by himself.
And we've got rising inequality in Europe as well,
right.
And the welfare state that is under pressure. But I mean, it's also true that if I look at a debate, right, around Medicare for all, for example, America is the only country in the rich world that doesn't have it. And still it has the most expensive healthcare system, and life expectancy is going down. So yeah, that seems pretty ridiculous.
You have a bunch of ideas that many people would consider ridiculous, depending on their age, and I find a lot of young people genuinely love as genius. Utopia for Realists is the book that you wrote, and it's come back into prominence again because it's just like a fun read. You talk about all of these ideas and how they could actually be implemented, which is interesting. It's not just the ideas. Universal basic income, open borders, 15-hour work week. Really, just, I mean, this is like a book. This is like Freddy Krueger for a GOP person. This is like nightmare stories. That's what this is.
Indeed.
I ended up giving this book 5 stars. I really loved it. It gave me a lot of new ideas and insights. Usually when I get recommended a book that is talking about societal issues, I don't really find anything new or particularly interesting in these books. But with Utopia for Realists having this really heavy focus on money and work and taxes, and you know, it was talking about an issue that I don't think is talked about enough. And Rutger Bregman himself, he is a historian, which I think that I've noticed that I've a slight bias towards historians. I think a positive bias. I don't know, I discovered that I trust and like historians a lot. Probably not all of them, but Rutger Bregman is one of them. I just love that he was talking about these very relevant issues that are becoming more and more an issue today, like poverty and the gap between rich and poor, and that we are suffering from a lot of stress due to overwork. And I love that he just takes these utopical ideas of like a 15-hour work week and mentions a lot of examples throughout history to show that things like that were actually happening. I know that I'm not really good with describing non-fictional work, but nonetheless, maybe the clip that I showed you in the beginning has intrigued you. I've linked the full video down below, so if you're interested, you can click on the link and watch the whole video, and they can explain it much better than I ever could. So that was it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did, I will see you in another video at another time. So thank you again, and bye.